Hello, artists. Welcome back to art class with Mrs. Hopkins. Today, I thought we'd do a sweet treat and I would teach you guys how to do a full-size cake. I know in our live art class we had done cupcakes, but today we're going full-size cake. And to celebrate that, I have my baking apron on. So I'm going to show you how to make one look realistic by using some geometry. So here's our example. As you can see, this cake has a bite taken out of it. That's right, somebody was pretty hungry at my house. Yeah, it was me. I took the bite. So we're gonna make our cakes look just as tasty as this one by using some parallel lines in our artwork today. And we're going to make the cake with a cylinder shape. And we're gonna talk about how the parallel lines help make it look realistic and help the shape all come together. So this cake is going to be out of this world. And I want you to follow along and take your time. So here are the supplies we're going to be using today. One thing you are going to need to help you is any sort of straight edge. Now, I have a ruler. That's what I'm going to be using for my straight edge, but you could use a piece of cardboard, the edge of a book, something that's flat and sturdy and straight. It's going to help you draw a straight line. I'm also going to be using my pencil and eraser because Mrs. Hopkins does have to do some erasing in this project. So I'll be using a pencil and an eraser, and I'll finish it out with a permanent marker. Now this one here doesn't have any color yet, and you're going to probably want to pick something that you'd like to color with. You could do anything you want. This is traced with permanent marker, so you could paint on top of it. You could use crayon, you could use regular marker. If you have pastels at home, they would be wonderful to color this with. So our objective says, I can draw a realistic cake using geometry. And that's a really great way to connect math with visual arts, because when we're creating things in art class, we use a lot of math. We talk about fractions and shapes, and you guys have to really use your math side of your brains to be a great artist. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, I've gathered my supplies and I'm ready to start my realistic cake. So when I look at my teacher example, I can find some shapes here. And geometry is just the study of shapes when you're using them in math. So believe it or not, the first shape that we're going to be starting out with is an ellipse, like an oval. Okay, if I were to take this cake out of the page and look down at it, I would see a circle. But this one is a circle turned on its side, so it's more of an oval shape. We're going to draw some parallel lines that come down from the edge of our circle. We're going to find the center point. We're going to draw an arrow shape and some more parallel lines. And it's all about lines and how they relate to each other. And we're going to be using our ruler, and we'll be using the same type of line and the same angle a lot of this. So I want you guys to take your time. Don't press very hard with your pencil because you're going to be doing some erasing. Right? Here's my pencil, here's my first step. I'm going to start with that big oval shape that we talked about. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Go on with that. Mine kind of looks like a flat pancake. It'll be okay. Now you could work on it and try to kind of even it out a little bit, okay? And that's where your eraser comes in handy. I could just kind of mess with mine a little bit. All right, I'm happy with that. So that's our first step. Then you're going to take your straight edge. I line it up with the edge of my shape, and I'm going to go down the paper. So you can see if I change the angle, it's going to be going in. It's going to kind of look like a cone. We don't want that. We want a cylinder. So we're going to go straight down, very light. Okay. Now I know that it might be a little bit tricky to see on the camera, but I'm trusting this old iPhone. I think it can do it. And I'm going to go on the other side. Now this is going to be my parallel line. About the same. They're parallel lines because however long I would draw them out in space, they'd keep going and going, and they would never touch. Now, we're not going to touch the bottom of the cake right now. You can see that I'm taking up a lot of the paper with this. I left a little bit of space up here, maybe for some decorations in the background, but I'm not gonna have a lot of space down here. I want you to find the center of your cake at the top, wherever you think the center is. And you can find it with your finger. Once you think you found it, I want you to make a teensy little mark. I'm gonna say that's the center of mine. Can you guys see my teensy little mark? It's right there. Now, this is where you're going to have to listen. I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm going to draw another parallel line. It's going to be parallel with the ones on the side, and it's going from the dot all the way down. Okay, so I will draw as long as I think I need to make it. I drew it about as long as the first lines, so I'm not quite to the bottom of the paper. Now we're gonna get fancy. We're gonna turn this line into an arrow, and that's going to be our slice. You're gonna line it back up with a straight edge. I'm using my ruler, remember? And I'm just gonna open it up, open up the angle. Okay, so I have an acute angle here. If I did a 90-degree angle, it would be like this. You'd have a little box here. I don't really want to have anything big like 90 degrees, so I'm gonna kind of split it. And I'm gonna draw the first part of my arrow. Right to about the edge of the cake's frosting. Do you see how I did that? I lined it up. I opened it as far as I think it should go. This is going to be the slice, and I drew right there. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now you kind of have to guess, because I don't have a protractor to measure this angle with, and I'm just gonna try to match it up the best way I can and make an arrow shape. So I tried to make these two the same. They go right to the edge of where our frosting is going to be, the outside of that circle. Now we need to add some more parallel lines. This one will be parallel with this one, and it's actually parallel with that one out there too. So we're gonna go right to the edge of the arrow, and we're gonna draw a straight line down. Okay? It'll be a little bit further than you drew the center of the arrow, and that's okay. You're gonna do the exact same thing to the other side. Just make sure that your line is straight, and that way it'll be parallel. And we have it. Now you and me can make some decisions about the bottom of our cake. You can draw a line to decide where the bottom is. That might be easy for you. I'm gonna show you what Mrs. Hopkins does. I finish out drawing another arrow, but it's gonna be kind of backwards. So this is my trick. I line up my ruler and I drag it down as far as I want the cake to be tall, and I just draw the bottom of it like that. I just left the ruler on the page. I'm going to match up the other side. I just drag it down, okay, until I match up with that one. Can you see if I cover with my hand where the cake would be missing its piece now? Now you and me have some erasing to do. We're going to erase this part. We're going to erase this part. Okay, so I have the top of my cake. I have the slice removed. Now all I have to do is connect this corner with the side of my cake. And if I draw a straight line, it's not going to be very nice. It's going to look very flat. It's not going to look realistic. What I'm looking to do is take this curve, and I want to draw another curve right here. So that's what I'm going to do. Ah, yes. Now you can see I don't need these lines anymore. They're a little bit too long. I'll get rid of them. Boom. Now you're starting to see my cake, aren't you? The same thing. Up at the top here, this is a curved line. Well, it needs to have a curved line here. There we have it. I can erase the extra. Now I know that is a ton of information. And while you're thinking about that, we can find our parallel lines. the side of the cake. Right here. The center where the piece got cut. Right here. Right here. That's 4. Did you know I have parallel lines someplace else? This line and this line. If it's the exact same angle, it will go on forever, that way and that way. And this is a set, the top here and the top here. So pretty cool. Now this is your basic cake shape. Before you decorate it, you're more than welcome to draw a little plate that it might be sitting on. And now you and I can have some fun. So let's just review our objective right now. It says I can draw a realistic cake using geometry. Well, we definitely use the geometry, but we want to make it look realistic. And right now it just kind of looks like a big hunk of cheese because it doesn't have any decorations. So we're going to have some fun with decorations. This one's pretty simple. I drew some fluffy icing around the edges. I added the center so it looked like it had some filling. And I did a little bit of decoration around the outside as well. And a few little dots with my Sharpie to show that it was crumbly on the inside. And if you want to get really crazy, you can add some stuff to the top. Well, I'm going to put some pictures of cakes in here to kind of get you guys excited about what you could put on your cake. You could do a multi-layer cake. You could go a couple tiers. It's up to you. I'm going to keep mine pretty simple. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to do the layers in the center. So I'm going to put 2 layers. So do you remember these parallel lines here? Well, we're going to draw some parallel lines. We're not going to use our straight edge because we're going to make them wavy. And I'm just going to do a wavy line that kind of is the same angle, so it should go up. And this one's going to go down. It's going to match up with this guy. Ah, you see? Pretty cool, huh? Well, for me, I like to continue that going around the cake. So I'm going to draw a line that looks like it goes around the cake. And the same with over here and over here. And the fun part about doing the wavy lines, since they're not straight, you don't have to be so precise. I'm going to put a wavy line around the top, and that's why I've used my pencil, because I can erase the parts that I don't want anymore. So I want to make this line kind of like really, really big. So I'm going to draw a big wavy line on the inside and then a big wavy line on the outside. And I think I'll add just some waves to the outside of this one too, to make that icing look nice and thick. Can you see the parts that Mrs. Hopkins needs to erase? Yeah. The trick is I'm going to erase them after I trace everything with Sharpie. So I have some inside layers, I have some outside. I'm going to add some extra fancy lines. Some decorations. Like they would use a piping tool for some really, really teensy frosting designs. Now remember, take your time. Yours does not look to have to look as fancy as mine. This is your cake. You can design it however you want. I can't wait to hear what flavors you guys picked. You know me, I'm a chocolate girl. So I would be doing a triple chocolate meltdown cake. So now I have to think about the top of my cake. What do I want to have on the top? I think my cake needs a big old dollop of like whipped cream. I'm going to go in the center with a big dollop of whipped cream. And so the inside of this might get erased later. Now the great thing about working with pencil is you can kind of change as you want. And then, you know, maybe some cherries. everyone likes a good cherry on top, right? So it's totally up to you. The next thing that you're going to see me do is I'm going to speed up this video and I'm going to trace everything with a black marker so that you can see everything gets traced and then all the pencil gets erased. Oh yeah, I just rhymed. You're welcome. So make sure that you take your time. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up to the next part of the video. Feel free to pause anytime you need me to slow down, because you're going to need me to slow down. Since I'm not in front of you, we can't all pause together. So make sure you get yourself a good straight edge and start building your cake, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and erase and fix all my parts and trace with a black marker while you guys are working. And that's it, boys and girls. It does take some time and it really helps if you have a ruler, but that's how we do a realistic cake to make it look like it's popping off the page. We're using realism. So that's a style of art that makes it look like it's real, kind of like a photo. A good artist for you guys to check out for this project is Wayne Thiebaud, and I'm going to put some pictures of his artwork in this video. And he also liked to paint desserts. It was a really popular thing when he was making art. It's a type of pop art. So here's a picture of Wayne Thiebaud, and here is a perfect example of one of his famous pictures. It's a cake, just like what we're doing. Here's what I want to really focus on before I leave you today. When you look at the center, I want you to be able to see that arrow. Okay? And you can see the tail of it. These shapes here have parallel lines. They're what we call a parallelogram. Now all the other stuff with it is just decorations and it looks really tasty. But this is made up of shapes and lines. Every piece of artwork is. So the way I'm going to add some color to this today to really make it pop is I found some crayons. So I'm going to do a crayon and watercolor resist. And I just have a regular tray of watercolors right here. This is just like something we would have at school. You could color it with whatever you have. You could leave it black and white. It's up to you. But my plan is to add a little bit of crayon first. And then I'm going to paint over top of it with watercolors. I'm even going to draw some designs into the background. So I'll show you that. And then I'll speed up that video and put some examples in so you guys can start creating your masterpieces. All right, before I add color, I just want to review your objective. I can draw a realistic cake by using geometry. We used our geometry, we made it look real because we made it look real delicious. So now it's time to add some color if you choose to do that. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a crayon watercolor resist where I use crayons first, and I'm going to make sure they're really bright cherries. When you do a crayon and watercolor resist, the water and the wax in the crayon have a reaction where the watercolor paint will not cover up the waxy crayon. So that means these red cherries will never get covered up by this watercolor paint. And that's a good thing. Some other things that I can do with this is I don't have a white crayon with me, but I could color this area white. Anything that I wanted to leave white, I could, like this whipped cream. I'm actually going to erase a little bit more inside of it. I could leave it white. If I want to have all of this area white, like if I wanted to have all of this, like this part white, this part, this white, I'm going to have to be really careful with my paintbrush. But if I had a white crayon, I could color over it white. And that way that the paint would not go into those parts that had crayon in it. I don't have one at home. I'll be okay. Don't you worry about me. But I said I was going to fill it with chocolate, so I definitely want some chocolate filling on the inside of this. It's going to be tasty, one tasty cake. I mean, it's totally up to you, but I always have to have a little bit of chocolate on my cake. And this should be just enough. Now, at our house, I'm the chocolate person, but Mr. Hopkins, he likes a vanilla. So there's always the great debate. Are you more a chocolate person or are you more vanilla? They're both pretty tasty. I mean, I say why not combine them? So anything else that I use my crayons for, the watercolor paint shouldn't cover up. So the rest of this, I'm just going to do paint anything that I don't want to be painted. I should use my crayons. But I think I'm going to use my crayons to add a little bit of something extra up in the background. Just maybe some fun shapes to break up that white space. Maybe some swirly shapes. I'm a big fan of the swirly shapes. And I use a variety of colors, so I've got some different colors down in here. Maybe some zigzags. And then, oh, you know what? Of course, some hearts. Who doesn't love a couple little hearts? So that'll be how I break up that area. The rest of it, I'm gonna use paint. I'm gonna leave this dollop white, but I think I'll be doing pretty much a rainbow tasty looking frosting. And then the inside of my cake, I will do one color probably. That's my plan. Anyway, we'll see how it turns out. I just might use my favorite colors. I'll go ahead and I'll paint the whole thing, including this plate. You guys can do whatever you want as far as your designs. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Trust me, the pictures that I'm gonna put in here are gonna be lots of fun and definitely inspire you to make a tasty cake. Check out the texture in this one. Look at that color. This one's got some awesome flowers on top. Look at the designs on the top of that one. Oh look, a strawberry. This one's my favorite of all, probably the sprinkles. So now I'm just adding color and I'm painting this. I hope you like watching. Remember, this technique is called watercolor resist with a crayon. Watercolor on top of crayon. And that's all I have for you students. I hope you guys enjoyed this project. I sure enjoyed making it with you. I can't wait to see what your cakes turn out like. Can you please email me a picture of your cake or upload it to the assignment in our Google Classroom? I'd love to share and we can send them out to our principals and put it up on social media. You can always do a cake selfie. I always enjoy a good cake selfie. I'm getting really hungry, so I'm gonna go ahead and go because I think it's about time that I make some cake or cupcakes or something at home. Bye everybody.